Hello everyone, and welcome to part 5 of how to make Breakout in Unity. So far, we have gotten our bat moving, our ball moving, and when we hit the blocks with our ball, they take damage, and when their health reaches 0, they are destroyed. So in this video, we are going to apply sound effects for when our block hits other objects such as this bat or the walls, and we're going to make a sound effect for when our block gets destroyed. So in the assets folder, there's a ball bounce sound effect that goes like this, and a block destroy sound effect that goes like this. You don't have to use these sound effects. If you have others that you would prefer using, you could go ahead and use them. But if you want to use these sound effects, you can find them in the Google Drive folder that is linked in the description. So let's get started. Now, we're going to start with getting this ball bounce sound effect to work when the ball hits any other object. So let's start by adding a component, and we're going to need an audio source. And what the audio source is going to play, the audio source is going to play audio. However, we don't want to play it on awake, because what that would do is play it the moment we start the game. We want to specify exactly when we play it, and we're going to do that in our ball controller script. So let's go to our audio clip and choose our ball bounce sound effect. And then you don't have to worry about this stuff down here, because all this really does is just modify how your sound is made, and that's really all. So now I'm going to go into the ball controller script, and we're going to make it so our ball makes sound when it hits stuff. So in our ball controller script, first thing I want to do is declare a private audio source, and we're going to call it sound. Actually, ball bounce. That's more logical. And then in our start function, we're going to set ball bounce equal to a get component audio source. What this will do, okay, come on. What this will do is just tell, oh, this is supposed to be this. So what this is going to do is tell our script that ball bounce is our audio source. The reason we do it is the same reason that we created a rigid body 2D variable, and it's so we don't have to keep going back through our code and having to write all this get component audio source. It just makes things simpler to do. So we want to make our sound when we run into a collider, and it can be any other collider. So we're going to need to write our code to make sound work in our onTriggerEnterToD function. Alright, so here we are checking if we hit a game object named bottom. We want to play our sound anytime we hit a game object that isn't named bottom. So what we're going to do is go to our audio source, which is named ball bounce, and we're going to play our sound. Remember, it's a capital P. So now, if I were to go into Unity, let the code compile, once I click play and hit something, why didn't it work? So this is interesting. I put the ball bounce.play in the GameObject.bottom, or when we check if we hit the bottom game object, and it actually does make the sound. So as you see, or will see in a second, it makes the sound. Okay, I see my mistake. This is an onTriggerEnterToD function. So here we're checking if we hit a game object that is, or a hitbox that is of type trigger. What we want is to check when we hit a collider that is of type collider2D. Enter 2D, and we're just going to call it collider hit. And as we collider 2D, so in here is where we want to say ball bounce dot play. I just caught this extra mistake. It's on collision enter 2D, and I think it's, yeah. So remember, it's on trigger enter 2D when you want to do something, when you collide with a trigger or pass through a trigger, and it's on collision enter 2D when you want something to happen when you hit a collider. So now if I were to go into the game and test it, we should hear the ball. Alright, now our ball is making sound. Now we can move on to making our block make sound. So let's enter our block controller script. However, there's something really important to note, and that's that when we go into destroy that game object, we are essentially deleting this from the hierarchy. We don't want to do that, because if we do that, then it won't be able to play our sound effects. We're going to have to tweak the script a bit. So let's create our audio source, put in our block destroy sound effect, and we can get to it. So here I am in the script. I am once again going to declare a private audio source, only this time I want to name it block destroy. Alright, and we want to destroy it when the health is less than or equal to 0. However, we don't want to destroy the whole game object. Instead, we are going to tweak our script so we destroy our sprite renderer and we destroy our box collider. That way you cannot see or run into the script, but you can still hear it play. But first, for testing purposes, we're just going to play our block destroy clip. So let's just hit our red block here and see if it makes a sound, which it didn't. Let's try to find out why. Okay, so you see this error saying the reference is not sent to an instance of an object. What this is telling you is that you've declared this variable, but you never told it what it is. So it knows that it's looking for an audio source, but it doesn't know which audio source, and which is why you get that error. So what you always got to do is just remember to define every time you do something like this. In this case, it's get component audio source. Now we can play our sound. There it goes. So if I were to shoot it, and I just barely miss it, and it doesn't make a sound still. Right? So we're destroying our game object a frame after we tell it to play the sound. And that's precisely the problem. And as you heard then, it made the sound. So, and that's exactly why we're not going to destroy, we are only going to destroy the sprite renderer and our box collider. Or, what we could do is instead make it so our audio source is attached to a game object separate from our block. probably like a child or parent. So let's create an empty game object, and let's name this block sound source. We're going to give it a audio source, and we're going to give it the block destroy sound. Now, we want this to be a parent of our red block. We also want to get rid of this audio source. So let's just center this at 0, 0. Make our red child. So now we have our sound here, we have our block here. So in our code, we can get rid of our block destroy, get rid of our get component because we have no component. So now, if I were to go into this game scene area, oh yeah, just got to make sure that we do not play it on awake because we do not want to make the sound when the scene loads. As you saw there, it destroyed our block that we want to get rid of, but it kept the sound source. And because of that, we can just create a script that plays the sound. So in here, we are going to get component in parent, and it's going to be the audio source. And what we want to do is just play whatever sound is associated with it. So going back into Unity, clicking play, and this should make the sound, which it did, but for some reason it didn't bounce back. Might have just discovered a bug. So I'll just do some play testing. Hopefully the ball runs into it soon. Come on, ball. Okay, I'll pause. Well, I did a few test runs, but I didn't see it pass through, so I'll have to re-look at the footage. Oh well. So now we have our sound effects. We have our block getting destroyed, and we have our ball bouncing off the sides. So now, before actually making the levels, I'm going to make a prefab of this. I'm just going to call this one block. And this will just be block sound source. And now to create a prefab, I'm just going to take this and drag it into our assets. And as you see here, I have this game object I can drag back into the scene, and I have another block. And a really important thing to know about prefabs is that they share the same components. So if I wanted to change the colors or change other stuff about it, I could very easily. So that wraps it up for this video. In the next one, we are going to make it so when our block gets destroyed, it's going to shoot out particles of the block's color, and we're also going to make it quickly initialize the health by looking at the tag, and we're going to make it change our color based on the tag. And that'll make it really easy for when we start building the actual levels. On that note, thank you for watching. If you have any questions about this video or suggestions on how to improve this channel, please let me know. And I hope you stay tuned for future episodes. And goodbye.